Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mulligans and Milkshakes podcast presented by the Crimson Crossover Podcast Network. I'm your host, Christian Sykes, joined by Matthew Travis and Charles Branch. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. It was a fun weekend, and we'll get into it here in a minute.
Yeah, nothing happened this weekend for you at all.
Not that I
Nothing.
know of, no.
Yeah.
Well, real quick, inside all of us, or inside joke between all of us with the start of this podcast, I know that Christian likes to take two off the tee. So now that we're in the fairway and off, we can get into the excitement from the weekend with Matthew's hole in one.
Hold on. I just want to say, first of all, two off the tee is only half the time. The other half the time, I take three off the tee. So just Matthew, anything happened to you this weekend? Anything
Yeah, I
you
went to live, and that was kind of the extent of my. No, I Saturday I got a hole in one. It's the fourth I've ever gotten. I had the video. Maybe we'll put it over here. I got a little excited. I am typically not one to curse, and definitely not curse often, but that was I just kind of lost control of what was going on, and I just I ran to my cart, grabbed my phone, just started recording and started talking. The first thing I said wasn't even I just got a hole in one. It was I just got no one's going to believe this. I just hit a pitching wedge 130 yards. And then like 10 seconds later I was like I just got a hole in one. And I was playing by myself. I've always kind of thought about what would happen if I got a hole in one by myself. And I've taken those videos like from the tee box to the green at least a dozen times before when I can't see the hole or can't see my ball. And I think it might be a hole in one. But this time it was so that hole, hole six, Graywood, the course I'm a member at, there's a false front. So I hit my pitching wedge about 140 yards. It was just over that false front. And I hit a pitching wedge. I always club up because it falls off the green and there's water right there. You might have seen it in the video. So I clubbed up, hit a pitching wedge. I just hit it perfectly. It one hopped, rolled for like a millisecond, and fell right in. I have the ball right here. And that's so my first three hole in ones. The first one was with a friend of mine in New York. It was a par three course. You can take that or leave it, but I still made it into the hole in one shot. So I count it. And then my second one was with my brother and my dad at Firethorn Christian. Firethorn was my home course in Charlotte. Was the worst shot of one of the worst shots I've ever hit. I thinned the absolute hell out of the ball, and I was swinging at the ground. My dad said, "What are you mad about? Turn around." One hopped, hit like halfway up the pin, and just fell into the hole. I did not deserve a hole in one then. Um, Third one was about 10 years ago. I think it was 2013 or 2014. And it was with a friend of mine also at Firethorn. It was a good shot. And this one, probably the best shot of the four I've had. And I was yelling at the people on the tee box in front of me because I just wanted someone to validate it. Because when you get a hole, I mean, conceivably you can fake a hole in one by yourself. You can do a lot of things to fake it, whether it be drive up to the green and just put it in the hole. And I understand people can poke holes in it and say it wasn't real, but I promise you it was real. I have three others. There's no need for me to fake engagement, and I promise you I would not have been cursing that much if it was fake. But I actually caught up with the two guys in front of me on 8, and I showed them the video, and they were like, "Yeah, we just never heard you." They had their music blaring, so they never heard me. But didn't have the good news is I didn't have to buy the bar tab because it was by myself. They couldn't validate it, so I don't. They have like a hole in one fund through the Men's Golf Association. I don't think I'm getting that, but I don't have to pay for the bar tab, so it's kind of a win lose. But yeah, it was pretty cool. And the unfortunate thing is there's a tournament this weekend that I was going to play in. I decided not to because to be honest, I just didn't want to pay for another tournament after the member guest a couple weeks ago. If I did plan it, I would have gotten like $1,000 worth of Yeti stuff. So that would have been nice. And they were giving away a Toyota Tundra on the 13th hole, so I should have saved it, but wasn't playing in the tournament. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty memorable to say the least.
So I've never gotten a hole in one. Charles, have you ever gotten one? And if not, what's the closest shot that you've gotten to a hole in one?
Closest shot, I've never gotten a hole in one. I've got a couple pictures on my phone of just where I've got shot hits, a foot from the hole, and then I've got 2 or 3 feet left for birdie. The most exciting shot of my career, I did eagle out from the fairway when I was 12 or 13 years old. But kind of like Matthews where he thinned it. This shot was in the fairway, like 125 yards out. Hit it. It was going to be short right of the green. Hits a sprinkler head, rolls on to the green, and then rolls into the hole. So that's how I eagled out. And then, but I haven't really had anything else close as far as I would say from a hole in one standpoint, probably 2-3 feet's the closest that I've gotten on something like that. What about you, Chris?
So I'm the worst golfer out of the three of us, and I think that's pretty, well known. Never gotten a hole in one. Probably the closest, and I will say this summer, like since I've been playing a little, since the podcast or whatever, a little bit more frequently, my iron shots in my like par 3 like shots are much better for whatever reason. I think maybe it's because like I said a couple weeks ago, like I'm standing up more. I'm trying to like improve, not just going out and playing. I'm trying to like make sure I'm doing the right things. Maybe 5 feet for birdie. There's not been any that have been. Now there was one that I wasn't close, but I took like a 7-iron from like I think it was like 160, something like that, and I hit it. It bounced in front of the hole, like probably not a foot from the hole, but like a foot off the left of the hole, probably about 10 feet in front of the hole, and it bounced. And the way the green sloped, it sloped out, towards the hole. And so I thought it was going to be close, but I think I thinned it and it went off the back of the green. But like that's probably like one of the ones that like, you got to get your like, oh, your eyes widen because you think you're about to hit one. As far as shots I've hit on a par 5, I hit my third shot 2 inches from the hole once, almost holed out for eagle. I've chipped in from like bunker, or I guess that's not chipped in. I've holed out from bunkers and chipped in before, but funny story, not with me. My best friend Brady Buford, we went and played golf in Tuscaloosa. I think it's at the Links. And first of all, when we went, the course was not well taken care of.
I promise that's not just when you went.
Yeah. This was 2 years ago, and Brady is an even worse golfer than me. Never plays golf, maybe once every other year. And we're doing a 2-man scramble. It's myself, Andrew Parrish, who some people may know that listen to this, versus Brady and his dad. And Parrish and I are, I'm hitting the fairways almost every single shot. We're getting it close. We're playing pretty well. And I almost drive the green. I think it's on like the 10th hole. I can't remember. It might not be the 10th. It might be the 11th.
The 10th hole it's
the one with like all of the bunkers around
the 10th hole is I thought the 10th hole was a par 3.
Maybe it's not the 10th hole then.
I think the 10th hole is that like really far downhill par 3.
No, then
like
it's not
right behind the clubhouse, I believe.
This is the one that's like next to the townhouses that has all of the bunkers around it.
That's hole. So I've driven that green. That's hole 14, I believe.
Yeah. So I almost drive the green, and that was like a theme of the round. I was like 20 yards from the green almost
Mhm.
on any drivable hole anyway. So Parrish and I get up there, we have 15 feet for birdie, and Brady and his dad are off the back of the green about 35 yards away. Brady takes out his putter and hits a
Good old
Texas
Texas wedge.
and puts it in the hole. That was probably the most crazy shot that I've seen in person, as far as like he's in the rough with the putter and puts it into the hole. And that course, right? It's not the best course. And so it's like rocks and gravel, it's
Mhm.
bumpy, it's like bumping, and it hits the
It
pin and
could
go
take
in.
a 90-degree turn at any point.
Yeah. Yeah. And we
But
lost by one on the scramble.
so this might make you guys a little mad. So I have 4 at Firethorn, where 2 of them are in Charlotte. Hole 3, it's a short par 3. I want to say it's like 110 yards. One of them was by myself. One was with 2 of my friends. I literally dunked it and it came out. I dunked the ball off the tee shot and it popped out to like an inch. I don't know how it's possible for it to pop out with the pin in, but I swear to God, it dunked and hopped out to like an inch. And twice, I've done that twice. It was the front pin location both times, and those were brutal. And then a couple of weeks ago, the member guest, I told you guys the wind was ridiculous for the member guest. I had 210 yards. My 7-iron, I typically hit, excuse me, my 7-iron, I typically hit 170, but it was right at my back. I hit 7-iron, 210. I came like a foot short of an albatross. That would have been unbelievable. But yeah, the 4 hole-in-ones are definitely the best shots I've ever had.
One of the surprising things to me of your video was, as you were walking up, you said like there's going to be a Vice 3 golf ball in the cup, and there it is. So is Vice the golf ball that you typically play
So
with?
yes and no. So I play AVX, is my Titleist AVX. It's pretty much a Pro V1. Just it's designed to go a little lower. I hit the ball ridiculously high. The amount of times I've played with people for the first time and they've said I've never met anyone hit the ball higher than me. I would have a lot of money if I had $1 for every time I've heard that. But I hit the ball really, really high. And so the AVX helps that a little bit. So when I play on the weekends, typically there's money on the line whenever I play with others. That's just how everyone at the course I'm a member at plays. They don't play unless there's money on the line. So I play those when there's money on the line because it's a little more suited to my game. When I'm playing by myself or there's not money on the line, I'll play the AVX or play the Vice because at Sam's Club they sell Vices for 2 dozen for $50, and AVX is $50 for a dozen. I got the deal a couple months ago. Titleist was selling buy 3 dozen, get a dozen free. So I loaded up then. But I try not to play the AVXs when I'm playing by myself because those are $50 a dozen. I don't want to, if I lose 1 or 2 balls, it's just a waste. But if I lose it with money on the line, I can make it make sense because I'm playing for a little more. So I play 2. I used to play the Kirklands forever. I played those for like 2 years. I still wear the gloves. The Kirkland gloves are great. But this year's Kirkland balls have kind of gone off the cliff. My Golf Spy did a test on it, and it's literally the worst golf ball they've ever tested. So I hung those up. I still have a couple of sleeves that I have in the bag. I just haven't used. But I transitioned to the Vice, which I've started to really like the Vice, and I could definitely play those whenever I want, but I play in my head, it just makes more sense to play the more expensive ball and one more suited for my game when I have a little more on the line.
Christian, are you partial to a certain golf ball brand or type?
Whichever one,
Whatever you pull out.
whatever I find, actually. So what ends up happening is You know, I don't really care because, and I tell people this all the time, and everyone's like, oh, this is not true. I am not good enough at golf for the golf ball to matter. Like, I truly am not. My clubs matter because my clubs help me, right? Like they're forgiving, they help. Golf balls, it doesn't matter. I could have a mud ball, I could have a regular ball, I could have, you know, a cracked ball. It probably will all do the same for me. So, um, no, I'm not very particular. If I had to pick one, it'd probably Callaway Chrome Soft, just because costs, um, you know, they're cheaper than Pro. I understand Titleist. I get it. It's just not worth the money because it's
The
likely
new
going to be,
Callaways, their tours, the one in
yeah.
the gold box, those are great. I got when I got fitted for my driver, which is Callaway, they gave me a couple of those right after they came out. I'm a big fan of those. I don't know if you've played with those yet or not, but those those fly pretty. I liked those a lot. Long story short.
Um, and you also said that you hit the ball the highest out of anyone. You obviously haven't seen me pop up my driver.
We've only played twice. I guess
Yeah.
I guess you were on that day.
No, I think when we played, I was shanking everything left. I'm almost positive.
We had a couple Budweisers for Luke,
Yeah,
so we'll blame it on that.
yeah. What about you, Charles?
I've gotten so many Titleist golf balls over the years as like stocking stuffers that's typically what I play with, and I find a lot of those on the course as well. AVX, Pro V1, Pro V1X, whatever it is. The best 2 rounds I've had in the past month was when I found not while I was playing, but I found a Callaway Chrome Soft, and I've played with that, and I
There
played
you go.
really well with that. And then, of course, I'm partial. I found a Wilson Super Soft, and I like playing with it every once in a
Of
while
course.
too. But it is interesting. Like again, similar to you, it shouldn't really matter for me as far as golf ball. It's more about just technique and stuff like that. And then when I get to a certain point, maybe the golf ball will matter. But it is interesting to me that 2 of my better rounds have come playing with the Chrome Soft than playing with the Pro V1. So as I go into this weekend playing the Father's Day tournament with my dad and both my brothers as well, my hope is to hang on to that Callaway throughout the entire round and hopefully put another good round together.
Let me ask you guys this: do you have any superstitions when it comes to golf? Ball number, whatever it might be.
I like playing with the 4 because I'm the 4th, but it's not enough of a superstition where I'm like only going in and buying 4 golf balls, or buying
Yeah.
a dozen and giving away 9 of them just to have the 4. So yeah, nothing like that.
So I didn't for golf. When I played baseball, which I played baseball throughout high school, I used to put my socks inside out. I don't know why. I think there was one game where I was a pitcher. I think there was one game I just pitched really, really well, and I accidentally did it, and I just kept doing it. But golf, I didn't until a couple weeks ago when I shot that 70 a couple weeks ago with the 3 putts and a missed 4-footer on the 18th for a 69. At one point throughout the round, I accidentally put it was the 10th hole. I accidentally put, so I have a magnet on my rangefinder that I just clipped to the cart. I put it upside down, and then on the 10th hole, I chipped in for eagle, and I kept it upside down the rest of the round, and I've put it upside down ever since. And I mean, it didn't really work because I played in the men. So funny enough, I played in the men's night Thursday. I had a long day of work, so I was able to pre-record the 6 o'clock, go play, and then go back to work. I had 2 pars, 6 bogeys, and a double bogey, so that was rough. And then I came out and shot a 74 with a hole-in-one on Saturday, 2 days later. But so obviously the superstition doesn't work for every round, but I've been playing decently as of late, so that's the only one I picked up, and I picked it up within the last month.
I'm curious the round that you didn't play well. I know with you, as good as you are, that had to be very frustrating.
Oh, there were clubs on.
but as you were getting as you were continuing to kind of just chug along, was there something that you figured out while you were playing that you feel like
I
helped
figured
you?
out I wanted to get off the golf course.
Because I texted y'all on Tuesday and I had played terribly, really, really bad. But with about 3 or 4 holes left, I realized I just had my hands a little bit too much upright on my swing. So I started dropping my hands a little bit more. And I think that allowed me to go play really, really well on Friday when I got the invite to go play farm links. So I just
Yeah, so
it kind of it's telling me, yeah, even though if you have a bad round, use it to your ability to go find something that's going to help you in the future.
so I hope he's not watching this. There's one guy at Graywood, the course I'm a member at. He plays so damn slow, and he had his own cart. Most of us did, and he would get to his ball, take like 8 practice swings, finally hit his ball while we're all surrounding the green, be short of the green, come up to the green, do it all again, get on the green, furthest from the pin. So he's up, and it's just, I play very, very quick. That's why I enjoy playing by myself, because if I didn't get behind those two guys, I have finished 18 holes by myself in an hour and a half, because I like to, I mean, if I'm playing well and I'm hitting the fairways and it's not car path only, I can just drive right up to my ball, hit it, and if I'm playing well, I don't have to get out a wedge or chip. I'm typically hitting the green, and it's just keep it moving. And that 9 holes took 2.5 hours, and I was, it's just brutal. So when that happens, I kind of rush everything else, and I would attribute part of it. I think I 3-putted like 4 times, 5 times in 9 holes, and I was just rushing myself, and I think that's all it was. So I came back out Saturday, was playing by myself because they had the tournament, so most of the people were playing in that, and I was just able to keep it moving. And I think truly that's all it was, because and now anybody who's listening to this who plays with me for money or competitively knows what they have to do. But yeah, it's brutal when I play with someone who takes forever, because I just get so in my head of hit the damn ball, let's go. And then if I'm the furthest drive, and I was playing with 4 others, so it was a 5-some, and I was hitting the furthest drive, so I was waiting 10 minutes in the fairway to hit my ball, and it was just brutal. But I digress.
Yeah, well, I also play pretty fast. With how bad I am, and I want to say this for people that listen, I am a not good golfer. I'm not as bad as I make myself out to be
I
on
can
this.
confirm he's better than he makes himself out to be.
I like to I don't want people to think that I'm this amazing golfer. I'm a good, I can hit good shots. It's just consistency for me. That's what the only thing that I have problems with is just being consistent. But anyway, for how many times that either I'm not in the fairway or I have to go find a ball or I'm chipping. I generally, if I'm playing by myself, there's no one in front of me. 2.5 hours for 18, which I think is
Yeah,
pretty.
no, that's quick.
Yeah, because I don't like to take, even on the driving range. I don't go to the driving range before I play. Just because generally when I do, I usually don't play well. And then I don't take practice swings either, unless it's close to the green where I have to kind of finesse a wedge. If I'm a certain number out, I know I have to hit the club, full send, and that's generally how I play. So I don't usually take practice swings. And I go out, hit the ball, and then just keep going. So about 2.5 hours for me as far as playing 18 is probably the typical time if there's no one in front of me.
And
That's
Charles, you had a nice round this weekend too, huh?
yeah. Friday I got an invite from a friend, Knox Richardson, to go out and play farm links, which was a lot of fun. When I got the invite, I think y'all had mentioned that the YouTube golfers went out there and had their championship. So before I got there, I actually went and watched the video just so I could get a little bit more understanding of the course and what it was. Talking about hole in ones, that hole number 5, which is just a huge drop down par three. I did not get 5 feet with my tee shot, but of course missed the birdie putt.
Two hole-in-ones for the podcast this weekend would have been unreal.
That would have been awesome. Well, and then the next hole, I actually it's a par five, and I got to the green in two and had a 10-footer for eagle and left it short. So that would have been quite a feat for me as well. I did have a blow up hole on 9. I had a 9, but if I had finished the front 9 better, I was 2 over through 6, and then finished the front 9 at 11 over. So nine over on those last 3 holes. Yeah, for the round, I shot an 88, which was 16 over, par 72 out there. And I was actually really happy with myself of playing this course for the first time, which I do think it's set up for any level, just as far as, they've got wide open fairways and stuff like that. But to break 90 out there for the first time, when I'm typically, struggling to break 90, and I think the 90 number has become a big deal. And I think the guys at Barstool and Foreplay with Trent making 90 has made that a pretty big number for amateur golfers to go out there and break. But to do that, and knowing how I did it too, where I did have some holes that just kind of blew up on me, I was happy about that, and that's given me a lot of confidence as I get into this week. I then tried to take that confidence and go play Saturday with the boys, and we played 3 holes in 1 hour. And it's not because we were playing slow. I let 2 groups pass us, one because it's the 3 of us and we're walking and they're in carts. But we were having to wait on the 3 tee box for the group in front of us that was still in the fairway. So I let them through, and that group in front of us eventually let those people through as well. But we finished the 3rd hole and they were still in the 4 fairway, and it was a group of 3. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. We like to get out there and we just like to go. And of course, for them too, they're getting antsy, just wanting to hit the ball, which I understand that with their age. So we called it after 3. I was disappointed we didn't get to play another 18 and, do that again for Will, because all he was talking about all Saturday was going and playing another 18. But we'll have many times in the future. But I mean, I think we're all 3 of us are the same. Like, we like to get out there. We don't like to rush. Like, we calculate our shots. We want to play the right way. We'll, mark our balls, line it up and all that. But you do want to play fast. You don't want to be out there for 4 hours, practice shots. I got to hit this part of the green and stuff like that. We just want to be out there and just play it.
Again, I'm not good enough for it to matter. Truthfully, like, if I hit the green, I'm happy. Like, I just put it on the green and get it around the green. That's it. No, we had a similar situation, except for we didn't let anyone in front of us. This wasn't last weekend or this weekend. It was the weekend before last. Maybe I said this already. We stopped after 9 and got a rain check because we were waiting 20 minutes on every single tee box to hit, which, like, and by doing that, like, it just compounds the mistakes like that I already make, because like I'm trying to just hit the ball, kind of like probably like Wilson, where like he just wants to hit the ball. And so like I just want to hit the ball. And so I'm sitting there like thinking about my shot, thinking about the last shot I made, thinking about all the mistakes I made, thinking about the adjustments. And then you go up and try to hit it and try to fix all of that in one shot. Just doesn't go well for me. So I found that I can't really play on the weekends. It's too slow. It really is.
I will say, even with having to wait, Wilson does a good job keeping the tempo in his swing. So.
Well, I'm trying to, and Matthew, you've seen this when we played. I'm trying to remember to follow through all the way through, because
what do I say to you every time you post your swing on Twitter?
Oh, move my feet. I never use my feet at all. I'm actually doing better with that, I will say. But the issue that I have is when I feel the club hit the ball, I stop, because I'm like, oh, I hit the ball. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, oh, I hit the ball, I'm done. And so I'll stop here instead of going all the way through. And so that's the one big thing I'm working on right now, is just, and I know it's small, but like reminding myself to like finisher shot because it leaves the club face open and I, hit it bad when I do that. So, um, okay, that's our stuff this week, or this weekend. A little bit longer than what we normally do, but a lot going on. We didn't even talk about the Live tournament. How did you enjoy going down to Houston and watching that?
So so I went to Live. Big shout out to Caleb Surratt. He actually played at Tennessee. He was one of the top amateurs in the world, and then decided to go to Live. He's on John Rahm's team, and he was actually tied for the lead after Friday, which is their first round. But didn't have a great Saturday and was just okay on Sunday. But my mom asked me yesterday, and I just kept saying it was weird. It honestly, it was weird seeing them wear shorts for a round that mattered. It's weird. Every tee box, every green, they're blasting music, which I play with music. I bet you a lot of those golfers, when they're playing practice rounds or when they're just playing around, I bet you they listen to music. But when you're playing a competitive, I mean, they're all making hundreds of millions of dollars because they're on Live. It just feels weird when they're listening to music, and it feels weird when they're all wearing the same uniforms, which are all like, I forget whose team. I think it's Henrik Stenson's team. They were wearing like a half pink, half blue, like gradient shirt, and all the like loud colors, the fireballs, I think, which Sergio Garcia's team, it's like yellow and red. Like, it just felt weird. And there weren't that many people. Bryson and Dustin were playing together on Sunday, so there were a lot of people following them. But I was following Phil Mickelson for like 2 holes, and there were like 50 people. And it feels weird because I've been to majors, I've been to the Wells Fargo, I've been to more than a dozen golf tournaments, and even I've been to practice rounds, and there were more people at the practice round watching players for the Wells Fargo and for the PGA Championship when it was at Quail Hollow than there were for a Live final round on Sunday. We left before the podium, but I mean, they do a cool job when it comes to, like, they had basketball game, they had a bunch of putting games, they had like batting cage, they had a mechanical ball, like they had a lot of stuff, I guess, for like fans to be engaged. And drink prices are absurd. It was like $12 for a regular size beer, and I digress. But the best way I can describe it is it just felt weird. And I mean, I was able to go right up to Bryson DeChambeau and talk to him for a second because there was nobody there. And there was nobody following Caleb. Obviously, I followed him for several holes because he gave me the tickets, and I was able to walk and talk with him because there was just nobody there. And that's kind of what I expected. I didn't expect there to be many people, but until you go there and kind of feel it, kind of experience it, like, I don't know, it just felt weird. And the golf but louder thing, I think they're just trying too hard for that because it says it everywhere. And it was funny that at one point, my friends and I were whispering like on the opposite side of the green. We were just talking about something, and Abraham Answer's caddy shushed us, and I was like, "How can you even hear us from there?" And I thought it was golf but louder. But I don't know. It just felt. I don't think I would go again unless it was like in my city and I had free tickets again. But I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I like the atmosphere of a PGA tournament. It feels bigger. The shotgun start also felt a little weird. It was kind of neat for spectators, but I mean, we still didn't even stay the whole time, and it was a shotgun start, so it was like a 5 hour round. But I don't know. I probably wouldn't go again, but I that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to feel it, compare the two, and now I've done that, so that's good enough for me.
So, question for you. You like myself, you've been to majors, you've been to, Wells Fargo, important tournaments. So for example, when I was at the Wells Fargo with Nick, like when I'm watching that, like I get antsy, or I like there's a shot coming up, but like like when you're a fan and like you want the player to do, there's a big putt, and you kind of get like a little nervous for the player, even though you're not doing that. And that's kind of where I see PGA. Did you? And I know you probably didn't have any rooting interests besides Caleb, obviously. Like even when you were following him, was that feeling ever there for you, or was it just kind of like, oh, he's just hitting?
Yes and no, because I was like, oh, if he missed a putt, money's still the same.
Yeah.
He's still signed for however many millions. But I mean, I was rooting for the big names because I made a point of going to see everyone. I saw Brooks Koepka too. He's a big Panthers fan who are in the Stanley Cup right now. So and he goes on one of my favorite podcasts all the time, and so I scream that at him for a second, but like I just kind of wanted to see all the golfers. So I saw Caleb. He was playing with Lee Westwood and Abraham Answer on Sunday. Saw Brooks, Dustin Johnson, and Bryson were playing together. Saw Henrik Stenson, saw Sergio. I saw all the big names. And that's kind of just all I wanted to do. I wanted to see them. I wanted to feel kind of what it was like, which there was, I'm sure if I had one of the upgraded seats, they have upgraded seats everywhere with TVs that are blasting music. Like 16, I took a video. It was a par three, and they had music blasting, and they had a bunch of people. And then 18, it was funny. We walked up to it at one point, and people were like taunting one of the I don't know who it was, but they were taunting one of the golfers, and he started pointing back. I was like, what is going on? But they were like talking very, very loudly while they're putting and while they're, so it was weird. But to answer your question, for Caleb, I did feel that because I wanted him to do well. Obviously, he gave me the tickets. And he's from Charlotte. And so one of my best friends is best friends with him, and so that's how I knew Caleb. But yeah, not really. Because it's also like my opinion of Phil changed when he said all the stuff about the PGA, said all the stuff about Live, and defended everything. I won't go into that. So I used to be a Phil fan. Obviously, everyone was. But my opinion changed him, so I didn't feel it for him. My opinions obviously changed in a positive way for Bryson, so I was hoping he would do well. Dustin, I'm kind of indifferent about, but I just wanted to see the big guys. I didn't really feel like darn, he's not going to win Live Golf Houston, but which is how I would feel like if Rory didn't win the Wells Fargo and he blew up to Xander Schauffele, I would have been disappointed and upset, but no, I didn't feel that way at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've I've always heard that they try to make it like a F1 race as far as like the environment.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've been to an F1 race, but that's kind of how it felt when I walked in. With like music blasting, and they had a countdown until the range closed, countdown until the shotgun began. I've been to one F1 race in Austin in 22. And that's kind of what it felt like they were trying to replicate. But yeah, I would say that's a pretty accurate depiction of F1 from Walmart.
Great value.
Yeah, great value
F1.
F1.
Well, outside of that, before we get into the fantasy results in the Memorial, I want to talk about just what's going on this week as far as Alabama golfers, because we have a major this week. So, Frankie Capon, I think, is it Capon or Capan?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
Frankie, if you listen to this, which probably
Or is
not,
it Capon?
Or Capon. I
You're listening
apologize.
to come on with
Yeah,
this.
come on the show. Come on the show.
And bring us through the pronunciation guide.
Yes. Specifically me. So the US Open is this week. Nick Dunlap, Justin Thomas, Frankie are playing. Frankie qualified. Nick's the US Am.
Frankie who?
Frankie.
What's his last name?
Frankie C. Um, Three of them are Justin qualified because he's the PGA winner from 2022. Frankie qualified because he won a qualifying tournament, and then Nick's the US AM, so he qualified for that. Corn Ferry, we have Davis Shore, Wilson Furr. Now we get Cannon Claycomb updates because he is now turned pro. So he's on the Florida Pro Tour right now. He's playing on Tuesday. The Tartan Pro Tour, the Cardona Classic, Gavin Monahan, I think that's how you say his name, is playing. And then Jonathan Grizz is playing an amateur event, the Sunahana Amateur, Wednesday to Saturday. And then on the LPGA Tour, Cheyenne Knight, Kristen Gilman, Juan Gian, Polly Mack, Stephanie Meadow, Benedita Moresco, Lauren Stevenson is playing in the LPGA Classic, and then on the Epson Tour, which I believe the Epson Tour is that the lower tour of LPGA?
That's their Corn Ferry.
Yeah.
Look, Reber, Abe, Kinsey Wright, Emma Talley, Angelica Moresco, and hold on. He said Sarah Edwards. Oh, Sarah Edwards is now in the field. She was the first alternate. So that's what's going on this week. But let's get into the Memorial Tournament, which again, another great fantasy result from Charles. I think he was the leader in points again this week. I think another strong week from all of us. I think I had 50 points this week.
Yeah, so I had 60, Charles had 65, you had 50. And although you had 50, Christian, all 6 of your golfers were in the I'm going to make sure I have this right. So with the exception of Justin Thomas, who you had to take, the other 5 golfers you drafted were all in the top 22. The golfer you cut was Max Homa, who finished 22nd. So so Charles got the most points. He got 65. He had Rory McIlroy, who got tied. It was in a tie for 15th. So with the elevated event, the signature event, it's +5 for everything. Fitzpatrick finished in 5th. Matsuyama finished in 8th, and Straka finished in 5th. I was 5 points behind him. Davis Riley got cut. No negative points for me. Patrick Cantley got cut. He was the player I didn't use. Scotty Scheffler won, so that was 30 points. Morikawa got 2nd, that was 20, and Fleetwood got 20th, so that was 10. And then Christian, you just, all of your players finished that you used, with the exception of Thomas, who you had to. All of your players were in the top 15, but none of them were in the top 5. If they were in the top 5, you would have gotten crazy amount of points. But Shoffley was 8th, Hovland was 15th, Kim was 15th, and Dunlap was 12th, double plus the 5 for Dunlap. So great pick for Mr. Relevant, not Mr. Irrelevant.
Well, and I'm going to tell you guys this. Any week that Nick Dunlap isn't picked, I'm probably going to pick him. So if you want him, pick him. If you don't want him, I'm probably going to pick him.
I did expect Christian or Charles to take him because he's talked about it's his son's favorite golfer. So he could have used him, but I mean he still
could have
won.
Used him. I won.
I know, but never mind. Straka was your last pick. He finished 5th, so probably would have been a bad pick. But I did expect you to take Nick in the last round.
I know.
But overall, I mean, we were trying to talk about this before the recording. Like, the tournament was fun, and I know Matthew, you didn't really get to watch. It was fun to see the guys struggle a little bit, especially leading up to the US Open, which I consider is the hardest major on the calendar.
It is, yeah.
Because the US Open, the USGA tries to intentionally make it extremely difficult for golfers because they don't like. I remember, what was the year? It was maybe like 4 years ago where the opening rounds were like people were shooting 8 under, 7 under.
At Shinnecock in 2018 when Brooks won it, he won it at 1 over.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Well, I'm trying to think. There was one where like they had started really far under par, and then the next 3 days, like they just sort of like ramped up the difficulty of the course to
Was it
where,
Chambers Bay? Because I
yeah,
remember that's when Spieth won it in 2015. Because I remember seeing videos. It was hard as this desk, and I remember seeing videos of them bouncing a ball up the fairway. Chambers Bay is always like that. Whistling Straits, when they go to Whistling Straits, is like that. But yeah, I think that was Chambers Bay in 2015.
yeah. Wow, I'm dating myself. But it's nice to see following the PGA at Valhalla where people were just scoring at will. I think there was one tournament that wasn't like a big tournament that the guys probably, I think they scored like 19. Davis Riley won at like what was like 14, 15 under.
Davis
Yeah.
won at 13 last week at the RBC. Didn't McIntyre win at like 16?
Yeah. Nick
Yeah.
Dunlap won at what, like 20 something when he won the
Yeah.
Amex?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a few of the courses that they've played have kind of reversed, I guess, what the PGA did. I think the week following the PGA, the scores kind of went down a little bit. And then obviously this past week, I think there are only 11 people finished under par. I think that's what you said.
Yeah, the top 8 places, which there were 5 tied, 4 tied, 5 tied for 8th. So there were 11 people under par. That was it.
Yeah. It's kind of nice to see varying
I love it.
contrasting styles as far as the golf is concerned. And I think this was the best finish for Nick since he's turned pro, but in his signature event, right?
Let me make sure I have it right here. So this year, let's see, obviously he has the win at his best, he T11 at the Houston Open, but that wasn't a signature. Yeah, best finish in a signature. He's 24th at the Wells. 60, he got last at RBC. Yeah, his best finish for a signature event major this year.
Which those are huge, things that he needs as far as because we've been talking about him qualifying for the Open, which so for people that are listening, because he turned pro, so prior to him turning pro, he would have qualified for the British Open or the Open, the US Open and the Masters, because he's the US Am for the Open and for the US Open, and then for the Masters as well. But because he turned pro, that means he no longer, for whatever reason, I don't know why, for the Open, he's no longer considered the US Am. And so he lost his qualification or his exemption for that, but he's still the exempt for the US Open.
He wasn't technically the amateur for the Masters either, because what's his name that played with Tiger from Ohio State, he finished second behind Nick, and he got the USAM exemption because Nick turned pro. He was exempt into that one because he won. There's so many, the qualifications can get so confusing.
Tournament winners
the
qualify for the Masters.
For the Masters, and for the PGA as well, but not for the US Open and the Open, which he's into it, but Davis, like you mentioned, is not into it. So I'm not sure, but he's into it. That's all I know.
Well, I just don't understand how the USGA can say he's the US Am, but then and I know it's not this. I know it's not
because the USGA runs the US Amateur. So I guess in their eyes, because he won it, even though he turned pro, he still gets exempt into it, and he's still technically the US Am, even though he's not an amateur. But I guess that's their eyes, because obviously the Masters doesn't run the US Amateur, but the US Open is USGA. USGA is US Am. So I guess that's kind of the rationale. I'm not sure.
And then another storyline: Scotty wins again. I think he becomes the fastest. I read somewhere he's like the fastest player to 5 wins. So
he's the 5th golfer ever to get 5 wins in a season. First since I think 06, 07, and that's in a season. And we've only played 2 majors, so we're like a little more than halfway through the season. So we've talked about his dominance, and there have been people saying it's not fair to say it's not fair to compare him to Tiger. Tiger was dominant. He's literally having maybe the most dominant season ever. If he gets two, I think the record is 6 or might be 7.
I think it's
But
7.
but I mean, he can keep going. What there's no style. I mean, every tournament he enters, he is the ridiculous favorite, and for good reason. And he's gonna be right up there with a chance to win on Sunday. And why stop at 7? He can. I think he can get like at least 8. I think he will get to 8 this year.
Well, you have to assume, right? Or at least my assumption is when the tour championship comes around, he's going to start 10 under because it's going to be very hard for anyone to catch him in FedEx Cup points at this point, barring someone winning like 2 or 3 of the playoff events or something like that, because they're like 2,000 points, I think, FedEx Cup points. But if you give him 2 strokes, right, and he's starting 10 under on a tournament, you have to assume that like he's probably going to win that. Right?
I think if he started at even par and he gave someone his spot at 10 under, I think he would still win it.
Yeah. I think I saw this ridiculous stat that like halfway through his front 9 on, and I know we're betting is not whatever, but I want to talk about this. Halfway through his front 9 on Thursday, his odds to win the tournament were plus 180.
He started at, I think, plus 225.
Yeah.
Which
for golf.
For those of you who don't know betting, that is absurd. That is like I don't know, the Giants playing the Eagles or Alabama playing Missouri, or like a decent matchup. There's still one favorite, but for golf, that is absurd. Before, I mean, last year it was probably him and John Rahm, and I think the lowest it got down to was probably like 550 for a tournament. And now week in, every time he enters a tournament, it's plus 225, plus 250, which golf is just absurd. It's crazy.
It's basically Scotty versus the field.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm taking Scotty every single time.
I would be interested to see if like DraftKings and stuff start doing like Scotty versus the field type bets. Like
so there, I saw a stat yesterday.
And I apologize, Charles. I know you're not supposed to.
You're good. You're good.
I saw a stat yesterday. If you bet $100 on on Scotty Scheffler to win every time he entered the field, and granted you're losing $100 when he doesn't win, you'd still be up $1,600.
That's crazy.
So I'm curious. Obviously, Scotty wins again. Colin Morikawa, I feel like, has had a very good year as well. He doesn't have the wins because obviously Scotty is getting them. But if you wanted to grade Colin's year from 1 to 100 and Scotty's hitting at 100, what number would you put on Colin Morikawa's year as of right now?
Hold on.
You want me to pull up his
yeah,
finishes?
you can pull up his results because he finished second, obviously, this week at the Memorial.
Yeah, he was second at the PGA behind Xander.
Was he in second or third at the Masters? He was in the final group at the Masters as well. So he's literally been, for the big tournaments, he's been there every week. And I know he's got some additional top 10 finishes
so he has
throughout the year.
So I guess he wasn't second at the PGA, but he was six top 10s, 10 top 25s, 1 runner-up. He only has 2 missed cuts. So his top 5 at the Century, 14th at Pebble Beach, 19th at the Genesis, 3rd at the Masters, 9th at the Heritage, 23rd at Zurich, 16th at Wells Fargo, 4th at the PGA, 4th at the Charles Schwab. His last 4 starts, we'll go back there. Wells Fargo 16th, PGA 4th, Charles Schwab 4th, Memorial 2nd.
He's a guy I feel like just in the, Scotty should get all the headlines. But then you look at somebody like Colin Morikawa, which he's getting advertising dollars. He's in like 2 or 3 different commercials when you're watching a golf round. But his 2 majors have come at the Open and the PGA. So there's some diversity in his two majors where Scotties have both come at the Masters. I just wonder if Colin Morikawa isn't really talked about enough because of how dominant Scotty has been. And then when Bryson this year specifically has come on, you don't get to see a whole lot of him, and he's finished very well, very well. So he gets a lot of the talk. Obviously, Rory McIlroy is playing well, and he's right in the heart of the negotiations. Then you have someone like Ludwig Oberg, who nobody knew about this time last year. He's on the Ryder Cup. He comes in having his first year, and he's playing really well. I don't feel like Colin gets enough shine like he probably should with the year that he is putting together.
I wish you didn't bring this up because I get to take him on my fantasy team like every week, and now one of you might take him, but it's okay.
I thought he won. Maybe that was Xander. I thought he won the gold medal in the Olympics.
No, Xander won it.
That's what I thought,
Xander
yeah.
and Justin Rose won the first one in Rio.
Yeah. No, I think he's been good this year. I think he's been consistent, kind of an under the radar type of guy, just because being overshadowed by like Ludwig Oberg, that, it's come on really strong. Xander, obviously, because it's felt like this year has been like a Xander Scotty type of battle, even though Scotty's won most of them. It doesn't feel like
I just looked at it. I've had Colin for literally every all of his starts.
it makes me mad because I want to pick him, and then I can never pick him because
sorry, I sorry to cut you off.
But I feel like he's played well. And another guy I want to talk about, and Charles, you'll like this before we get into the fantasy picks, because we only got about 25 minutes left. Seb Straka has been coming on strong recently, and he's put a lot of really, really good results together. Charles, what are your thoughts on Seb and kind of what his outcome maybe is for? I think he's playing in the US Open, right?
Yeah. He's playing great, and he was another guy that was on the Ryder Cup, and so maybe too, when we were talking about Ryder Cup guys that have been having really good years, like Ludwig, like McIntyre, and then going back 2 years before that when Scotty was on the team. It's being on the team, but obviously your team winning as well, like Team Europe did last year. Not a great finish from Sep on Sunday, but you could say that for a lot of guys. But he's just consistently making cuts, and you continue to see him on the leaderboard. So I'm very happy for him. And just again, another guy, he's from Austria, but I know he lives here, and they talked about it on the broadcast, moved from Vienna to Valdosta, Georgia, which I've spent some time in Valdosta working with the city down there in the past. That is, I imagine, quite a culture shock when you go from Austria to South Georgia. But I know his main residence when he's not traveling playing golf is here in Alabama. And again, just another guy that I think we can adopt him, hopefully, as an Alabama golfer that brings a lot of pride to golf within the state.
Back to Scotty for a quick second. How many putts did he make over 10 feet this weekend?
He missed a bunch before we had to get out of the house last night for a vacation Bible school kicking off.
Good. So that means neither of you saw the stat.
Is this Matthew's minute?
No, this is not Matthew's minute. I have a fun one.
I'm going to say he made 2 putts outside of 10 feet, and I think that's high.
7.
Made 1 putt over 10 feet, and he still won. That is absurd.
They were talking on the broadcast, like, when he putts great, nobody's beating him. When he putts good, he's going to win by 4 or 5 strokes. When he putts bad, it's going to be a battle for him to win. It's like Alabama basketball. If Alabama basketball hits 15 threes, like, you're not winning. If Alabama hits 10 threes, okay, they're winning by less than double digits. If they only hit 5, then it's going to be a battle, and the defense is going to have to step.
One putt over 10 feet is like Alabama basketball making 2 threes and still winning.
Yeah.
It's like
that is absurd.
The 3 of 30 game that we lost.
Yeah. This week,
Matthews minute.
Okay. So this week we'll do the Matthews minute. So this is more of a personal preference question. So the question is, if you had you're on the PGA, you had 4 sponsors So this is clubs, this is apparel, this can be whatever else. What 4 sponsors are you going? Only rules are someone in the PGA has to be sponsored by one of those brands. I'll give my 4 if you want me to go for first
Yeah.
while you guys
Yeah.
think. So, like I said, Titleist golf balls. If I'm on the PGA, that means I brought my ball flight down, so I would be able to play a Pro V1 again. So Titleist, I think I'd stick with Titleist for my clubs because I play Titleist irons and wedges, and I'll take a Scotty Cameron, and so I'll transition to driver and woods. So Titleist. Cam Young is sponsored by Major League Baseball, so I'm going to throw a little Major League Baseball patch on the collar. And if I don't say Travis Matthew, I'm doing something wrong. So Travis Matthew, and is that 3? Is that 3 I
Titleist,
said? Titleist
Titleist.
Travis Matthew, Major League Baseball. So I'll go G4 for shoes. I got a second pair of G4 shoes, which is what I got the hole-in-one in. So I'll go with some G4 shoes. Those are my 4.
It's
Christian,
so
you
hard.
go?
It's hard because like I use Ping irons, but I use Callaway woods,
Yep.
and s- so I probably would go with Ping, just because I can probably adjust a driver, but I'd probably use my irons more than my driver, so I think I would stick with that. I also use Mizuno wedges, or like my 56 degrees of Mizuno, so it's like it is a mixed bag.
Got a
So
Frankenstein bag.
it's what works, you know.
I'm not faulting it.
Um, as far as well, cause no, I'm gonna go Callaway. I'm gonna go Callaway. Main reason why, because I like the Callaway
Are you
Chrome
sure you
Soft.
don't want to go ping?
No, I'm going Callaway. I like the Callaway Chrome Soft. I want to be able to play the Chrome Soft ball, and I don't want to take another
Well,
sponsor.
Ping doesn't have okay, fair enough. I was gonna say Ping
Yeah,
doesn't have golf balls, so you
yeah, I don't
could
want to take two of the sponsors. So would do that. Would do for clothing. Um, I don't know. Clothing probably. What's clothing? J&J apparel would be the first. I'm just kidding. No, probably like, well, Nike doesn't do golf anymore, do they?
They do.
They still do apparel, yeah.
Scotty,
Yeah.
Rory, they're all
Yeah,
Nike.
so probably just Nike, just the standard. FootJoy for like gloves, and I think they do shoes, right? And then
Mhm. FootJoy. No, they don't do shoes.
hey, you never know. And then I'm gonna throw Charles through a loop here. BB Go would be my title sponsor on my polos.
They did a commercial on Sunday and Harvey started singing it afterwards. I had to leave the room. I'm gonna go. I'll go Callaway golf ball and irons because that's what I play with. Well, golf ball I'm starting to play with more now, but my irons are Callaway. I'm gonna go TaylorMade driver and woods because that's what I play with as well. I'm gonna go the apparel. I actually saw this at the regions. A lot of the senior guys were wearing it, or excuse me, tour champions guys were wearing it. Fairway and Green. I had never heard of that brand, but it sounds perfect for a golf clothing brand. So I'm gonna go Fairway and Green with my clothing. But then also I typically wear just a regular like hat, baseball hat, golf hat, whatever you want to call it, because I'm getting older and not want and lather up with sunscreen and stuff like that. I actually want a Wilson sun hat to start playing with at some point. So I'd use Wilson as my last brand.
What about the that one I sent you guys, Joel Damon from the Zurich? You don't want the visor bucket?
No, I don't want to take a chance where I'm sunburning the top of my head or something like that. Not like I've got a huge patch up here or anything, but no, I'll go with the sunbrim Wilson hat to
There are a bunch of golfers sponsored by Mercedes and different car brands. I'm surprised none of us went there, but I went with free baseball tickets, so that's just me.
I went with free BB Go, whatever they do. Is it barbecue? What is BB Go? I don't know what
You know what
BB Go
BB
does.
Go is?
No,
You've never seen the 1,000 commercials?
no. I usually watch like ESPN Plus, like featured coverage, so I don't see the BB Go stuff.
It's like frozen egg rolls.
Oh, perfect. I hate egg rolls. This is fantastic.
I had no idea that it was
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's I mean, that you're buying it in the grocery store. So, and again,
we're
picky
giving
eater here,
BB
so
Go
I'm
some
not one
free
who eats a whole lot of egg
advertising,
rolls
but
anyway.
let's find out. What is BB Go? BB Go
Wait, so
dumplings.
so
Dumpling.
do people do driver sponsors and iron sponsors different, or are they just
It's rare, but some of them do.
okay? Because I would have done that,
Because
but I didn't know that.
typically the manufacturer, if they're doing your irons, it's the deal is full bag.
Yeah. Um.
I'm so good they got to play by my rules.
Yeah.
All right, Scotty.
All right. Well, let's get into the U.S. Open.
I am very excited. I've played Pinehurst #2. Was there in 2014 when Martin Keimer won it. I think it was 9 under, and second place was Ricky Fowler, 1 under. I believe that's right. Uh, so it's and from everything I've heard, it's set up to be a impossibly tough golf course, which I love. We talked about before, and we talked about it right there. I love when the scores are high, when the winning score is 3, 4 under, close to par, above par, and that's what the U.S. Open is supposed to be. And I think that's what it's going to be this week. If I had to guess, the winning score is going to be like 2 or 3 under. So I'm really excited. I shot a 78 from the tips, slight flex. U.S. Open, Pinehurst #2, back in North Carolina. I'm very excited about it.
I'm old enough to remember when Payne Stewart won it. I remember watching that putt and him beating Phil Mickelson. And I remember Phil had not had a major at that point. He was good enough where that was the last thing he really needed to do. And of course, we're sitting here 20 years from now, and he's got all the majors except the U.S. Open. And I think his best 2 chances were that one. And I can't remember the course, but when he lost to Jeff Ogilvy, where he basically had it in the bag, and instead of taking a fairway wood or an iron off the tee, he went driver. And
That was Winged Foot, right?
I think that's
06.
right. And that was a tournament that I think Jeff Ogilvy won it like 3 over. So it's interesting looking back at those missed opportunities where Phil could have had the career get Grand Slam, and he was that close in at least 2 of those opportunities in the U.S. Open.
You want me to make you feel old real quick?
I already know. Talking to y'all, I already feel old, so you can try.
You said you're old enough to remember the Payne Stewart. That was 1999. I wasn't born yet.
I know. I figured
I
that.
was 4, so at least I was born.
I thought that was the case, that you hadn't been born yet. So.
What was I going to ask? Dang it, I lost my train of thought. I can't remember now. I had it and I lost it, and I had a good question. Now it's gone. Oh well.
All right, you want to just get into fantasy, and if it comes back, it comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this week it goes Charles, myself, and then Christian. The current standings, we have a tie for second place, so there's currently nobody.
I remember now.
There we go.
Okay. Before we get into fantasy, this is what I was going to say. Thoughts on Tiger getting a special exemption to the U.S. Open?
He deserves it, but I swear to God, if I see every single one of his shots and Frankie Cappan is in the top 15 and I don't see a single Frankie Cappan shot, I'm going to be pissed.
It's definitely good him being in the majors. I agree. Let's get coverage of everybody going on. I want to see coverage of the 29-year-old English teacher or whatever his subject is. But let me see some of those unique stories because of the unique qualifying that happens with the U.S. Open. I mean, as we talked about beforehand, Lee Hodges isn't in this tournament. Davis Riley, who won 3 weeks ago on the PGA Tour, is not on this tournament. So if you're going to have qualifying like this, which I don't have any qualms with, but let's see some of these guys who aren't professionals but have qualified for it, and see them play alongside the professionals, and not just all of Scotty, all of Tiger, at least through Thursday and Friday.
Tiger brings in the money. Tiger brings in the viewership numbers. You have to put Tiger in it. I mean, he's either the best golfer of all time, or he's the second best golfer of all time. To keep him out, he deserves a spot for a multitude of reasons. But yeah, like Charles said, just give us the storylines. I don't need to see all Tiger all the time.
Yeah. Okay, that was my question.
What do you think about it?
I think it's dumb.
You
I
don't
think
think he should be in it at all?
No. Main reason is no, I don't think there's been a situation, and I could be misquoting this, in the past where a golfer has gotten an exemption like that from the USGA. And if the USGA wants to be known as the most difficult, major, the most difficult I don't think a player should get a special exemption just because he's Tiger Woods. And I understand what he means for the game, and I understand the impact that he has on the game. But I feel like Tiger Woods should have to qualify the same as any other PGA Tour golfer that isn't. Adam Scott had to go through qualifying, right?
Which he ended up getting in even though he didn't make it.
Exactly. Like a dude that's made 25 consecutive major
92
or 92. 25 was someone else. 92 consecutive major starts, right? He had to go through qualifying. I think it's kind of quite ridiculous, in my opinion, that you're going to make a special exemption just because you're Tiger Woods. So
that's fair.
Can you imagine Tiger at a qualifying site though?
That's what I'm saying.
That would have more people than Liv had this week.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's good for the game. Right?
Yeah.
But having him at the US Open is also good for the game. I agree with you, but they'd be leaving money on the table if they didn't let Tiger Woods play.
Tell him,
and he's won it what? How many times has he won the US Open? 3 or 4?
I think it's 4.
4?
Tell him that he at least has to go to a qualifying site and have it in your back pocket as far as an exemption if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. And yeah, like I've told you guys, I'm not a big Tiger guy, but I think it's the right move to keep him in.
I understand that, and I understand it, but I think that the fact that he doesn't even have to qualify and he's playing one tournament a month and is just getting special exemptions because he's Tiger Woods, I mean, that's just, it kind of rubs me the wrong way because there's so many guys that are out there grinding, guys that have won. Davis Riley won a tournament this year. He's grinding to get into the US Open, grinding to get in the Open Championship, and he's had more success this year than Tiger Woods. And I know Tiger Woods has had more success over his lifetime. I get that. Second best golfer in the world of all time, whatever. I get that. But this isn't a pageantry, like this isn't like the Masters makes sense, right? There's more pageantry in the Masters. The US Open is supposed to be the most difficult field to get into in golf. It's supposed to be on the most difficult course, the most difficult Masters. Why put a guy in that didn't qualify? That was what did he finish at the PGA? Like 11 over, 8 over, like something crazy like that. Like, I don't know, just rubs me the wrong way.
Cut, but yeah, he was bad. But you have a meeting in 9 minutes, so let's get into fantasy real quick. Charles, you are first, then it is me, then it is Christian.
Yeah, so I'll rectify the wrong from last week, and I will go Nick Dunlap. I know there was discussion between Nick and Justin, but I like how Nick grinded last week. I expect it to be similar this week, as we've discussed. I like that he's the U.S. Open amateur champion, playing now his first U.S. Open, I believe. So I'm going to go with Nick Dunlap.
Easy. Justin Thomas.
Frankie C. Don't know how to say your last name, unfortunately.
I think it's Capin.
Capin?
I think it's Capin.
Frankie Capin. Welcome to the team.
I could be Capin, but I think it's Capin.
I'm excited to have him on the team. I've been following him on the Corn Ferry Tour, following his results.
And you don't know how to pronounce his name?
Sorry. I just look at the leaderboards. I can't, I don't, and then obviously I'm going Scotty.
So this is I should pick someone else, but it would kill me if he won or got a top 5 and I didn't have him and I had the opportunity. So I'm obviously going Rory.
Yeah. And so my question about Colin was probably a prelude to me wanting to get him, and which I will get in this spot. I will go Colin Morikawa, and then to circle back around, I'm going to get Victor Hovland back on my team for a major. I think Victor's having a under the radar decent year and has played well in some of these bigger events.
So I was between 3, and I didn't expect the other 2 to get around to me, but one did. So I'm going to go Xander Schauffele.
Dang it. That's the one I wanted. So Let me go. I'm obviously not going John Rahm. I thought about going John Rahm.
He withdrew this week, by the way,
Oh, he did?
from Live. He had like a cup between his toes apparently, and it turned into an infection. He withdrew on Saturday from Live, so keep that in mind. You're
Well,
welcome.
I'm definitely not picking him. So I will go. Who was I just thinking? Why am I like blanking right now on players? I will go. What the heck? I just had this open. I know my computer's messing up. I'm messing up. I'm messing the flow. I apologize.
Playing
Let's
slow.
go.
Hurry up. We're
Let's
getting
go. Let's go. I'm going crazy here. Let's go. Brooks Kepka.
That's a good pick. I wanted him on the wraparound.
So I'm gonna go Brooks Kepka, and then I am going to go. I don't want Cameron Smith right now.
Saw him yesterday too.
Let's go Max Homa.
Oh, I typed in a different name for you already. Max Homa. All right. I'm between two guys. One has played really well at the majors this year, so we'll keep him on the team. Bryson DeChambeau,
That was another guy I was thinking of.
YouTube star.
All right, so this is pick 4 and 5 coming up for me, correct?
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna go Tony Finau, and then just to make sure that y'all don't take him away from me, I'm going Sepp Straka round 5.
Perfect. So the other guy I wanted, I get on the wraparound. I wrote him in for Christian because I thought he was going to take him, even though he doesn't know how to pronounce his name. Ludwig Gobert.
I was gonna pick him. Ah,
I thought you were going to take him instead of Homa.
I was going to. I was in between the two. So I get two here, right?
Yep. Your final two picks.
So I'm going Thagala, Sahith Thagala. He was tied for 12th in the PGA. He's been playing pretty well. I like his game. And I think maybe he has an opportunity to break through. And then the last pick of Team Sykes will be, drum roll, please. I actually don't know yet. So hold on.
He's playing slow, trying to throw us off, Charles.
Yes. The thing is, I've already got, of course, with these fields, we actually have a lot to pick from. And there's some that like I know I'm not going to get. That there's one or two I would have loved to take a flyer on. I'm not going to have to, I don't expect, but there are some guys, some good names still on the board for either.
I agree.
For all of us to get with our last pick.
Robert McIntyre. That's my last pick. Lock it in.
Big shot Bob. You're not worried about him partying it up in Scotland, withdrawing from the memorial and being too drunk?
Nope.
His dad is not in the bag this week.
Does not matter. Lock it in. Robert McIntyre.
So,
are there drones at this tournament?
So I like the idea of Patrick Cantlay, but I don't like how he's been playing. So I'm not going to go Patrick Cantlay. Same kind of thing for Fitzpatrick, even though he played well. Tom Kim, no. I'm going to go a different Tom. I'll go Tommy Fleetwood. He's on the team quite a bit, so we'll keep him on Team Travis.
I'm going with the Wake Forest kid, Will Zalatoris.
Willie Z. So the only team that doesn't have a former U.S. Open champion is Charles. Hovland didn't win it, right? No, he didn't. I have Rory, who's won it, and Bryson, who's won it, and Christian has Brooks.
Yep.
So, anyway, Charles, you have Nick Dunlap, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, Tony Finau, Sepp Straka, and Will Zalatoris. I have Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Bryson, Ludwig, and Tommy. And Christian is Frankie. Who? Christian?
Come on. Capan.
Frankie.
Capin.
I'm gonna say Capin. Frankie Capin. Scotty Scheffler, Brooks Koepka, Max Homa, Sahith Theegala, and Robert McIntyre.
I didn't like him enough to be on my team, but a way off the radar pick that I just want to throw out there so people can flame me afterwards after the tournament. Jake Knapp. I think Jake Knapp makes.
He's
the
been
cut.
playing great. I like Jake Knapp as
He
well.
makes the
Hideki Matsuyama is my not picked player that I think can have success this week.
Adam Scott.
I like the
Adam
story.
Scott, he tied for second the last time they were at him and Henrik Stenson, even though they were 8 strokes behind Martin Keimer.
Yeah. Adam Scott's my guy. He made 23 consecutive US Open starts. That's the stat I was thinking.
92 consecutive major starts. That's unreal.
Anyway, I have a work meeting, so
and real quick, I will not be on the pod next week. I apologize. I will be on a cruise.
well, have fun on your
Get
cruise.
your picks.
Yeah, be sure to send us your picks for next week. It's the Travelers Championship. As always, shop J&J Apparel. It's our apparel partner. I think today we're actually all wearing J&J polos. So outside of that, we'll be back next week, hopefully when Frankie Cappan wins the US Open and Team
I have the
Sykes.
best team. I have the best team.
Oh yeah, we've got to ask. All right. Well, you guys have a good day and roll tide.
Roll
Roll
Tide.
Tide.